I said, you are hired for your qualifications, but fired for your character.
Whoa.
Now, when we take our children to school, it is a huge investment.
Yeah.
Huge investment.
Yeah.
I mean, you cannot imagine how much parents invest in their children.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, they lose it simply because even them, they don't have an understanding why this child is not employable.
Yeah.
Why they cannot get on board.
Mm-hmm.
And it is that conviction that speaks to me that I need to prepare my students not only for employment, but they should be employable.
Yeah.
Somebody should be willing to pick them and say, you come from St. Mark's College Namagoma. I love that product because of their integrity.
Yeah.
I love that product because of diligence. I love that product because of excellency. I love that product because of commitment.
Right.
And they choose to work with you. They choose to nurture you. They choose to train you. They choose to build your capacities, and you excel. And the moment you have those values, well found, when you have a deep foundation of great values, the sky is the limit for you.
Wow. So
that openness of mind. So for me, it's very intentional.
Yeah, I can see where you're going with this, because you know as well as I do. Well, that's the voice of the Immaculate World Changer. She's called Canon Alice Ddamulira. She is a teacher and a human resource specialist, and now a co-owner together with her spouse of a private school offering secondary education with a population of above 2,900 students, actually just about to get to 3,000 students. She has the ability to lead objectively, and having worked in a multicultural environment for 15 years and now working in her own establishment with 149 employees, she's polished in the application of modern leadership methods such as staff motivation and involvement in both decision making and target setting, clarity in communication, and good interpersonal relationships. Her big desire is to be a person of influence and impact communities positively as a leader and mentor young people to become the best version of themselves. She has faith to take on the scale of the challenge and a mission to embark on a mission to have transformational leaders and youth in her country who will be judged by the content of their character and personal growth of their God-given abilities. She has this professional career that has spanned many years. She's now the director of St. Mark's College Namagoma, head of Human Resource Department at the International Red Cross Society some years back. She was also the Administrative Secretary of International Committee of the Red Cross, and she was a teaching assistant at Makerere University Institute of Languages. She sits in different boards, including being the Vice Chairperson, School Management Committee at Gayaza Junior School, board member of Wurinde Insurance Services, board chairperson, Concern for the Girl Child, board chairperson, Finance Committee, West Buganda Diocese, and board of trustee, Uganda Dance Sport Federation, as well as board of director, St. Mark's College. Well, I had a discussion with her, a conversation with her about her passion in education, and this is what we've been talking about, and I want you to listen in today. I hope it makes your world a better place.
Welcome to the Life Signatures podcast with Lawrence Namale. Lawrence is a life coach, author, and keynote speaker who loves to tackle different topics on purpose, productivity, and resilience. His mission in life is to awaken all your boundless possibilities available in you. Life Signatures podcast is dedicated to bring to reality every single person who knows that deep down in their gut, there's got to be more to life than this. And now, here is your host, Lawrence Namale.
Well, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, whatever place it is that you're tuned on to the Life Signatures podcast. In the month of April, we have been talking about education, and we have been interviewing people who are passionate about the same thing, people who are practitioners in the same thing. And on the call today, I have the privilege to talk to Director Alice Ddamulira. Alice, is that how your name is pronounced? Ddamulira?
Yes, Ddamulira.
When you come from Western Uganda, it's difficult to pronounce Ddamulira. You can say...
I can imagine.
Yes. How are you doing today?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm so grateful that you've spared some time to just talk to us about this subject matter today. And I just want us to dive right into it and just ask you this question. Are you like a trained teacher? Is this your profession?
Yes, I'm a trained teacher.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I did not have a full experience of being in a classroom environment as I did my teaching practice.
Yeah.
I happened to get a job in an international organization.
Mm-hmm.
But teaching, nurturing, and empowering young people is my passion.
Mm-hmm.
So I always talk about myself as a teacher by profession and vocation. And I'm very proud of being a teacher.
Okay. How was your journey like to become a teacher? Because at the moment in time, do you teach in class as we speak?
I did not, the conventional teaching of maybe preparing lesson plans, skimming of work. I'm a teacher of literature and English.
Yes.
But I don't teach literature and English.
Mm-hmm.
But I teach life skills. I teach values. I pick on subjects that I feel are very, very important to students other than the conventional, classwork that is examined. I love empowering our children. Yes.
I see. We are going to talk about that in this podcast today because I think it's one of those critical aspects. But before we can even get to that, let's just talk about your passion for education. Is there a place where it did start? Can you look back and say, this is where I really got passionate about this, and this is when I decided that for the rest of my life, I am going to not to do animal husbandry, not to do piloting, not to do business or whatever other things, but I'm going to be identified as someone who is passionate about education. Is there a turning point?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yes, there's a point. The primary school that I went to, that is Namagoma Primary Boarding School.
Yeah.
I had our head teacher. She was Reverend Sister Genevieve.
Mm-hmm.
And I just loved everything that she used to do. She was an Irish lady.
Yeah.
And the way she spoke, the way she carried herself, the respect, the dignity, the command. And not in so many words, but her way of life and how she presented herself.
Mm-hmm.
But as a young girl, there is something that actually struck me about her.
Mm-hmm.
If she would be crossing somewhere, everybody would go dead silent.
Mm-hmm.
If she would stand at the assembly ground, everybody would go dead silent.
Mm.
Without even saying much. Because I wouldn't say that I remember her saying anything significant.
Yeah.
But the way she carried herself. And I carried that dream as a little child growing up.
Mm-hmm.
When I grow up, I want to stand before people and everybody will just go silent.
Mm.
That is what was my desire. I mean, carrying that respect and having little children look up to you.
Mm-hmm.
And in a way, she impacted me, and I would say she was my silent mentor in so many ways.
Mm-hmm.
So for me to fall into the space of education, it was more or less like a natural calling.
Yeah.
I felt like, this is an opportunity where I'll be able to stand before young people.
Mm-hmm.
They fall dead silent, but I impact them more by my way of life other than what I say.
Mm-hmm.
So that is where my journey for education started.
That
but
was
all along I had.
that was way back in primary school, right?
That was way back in primary school. It is
Okay.
now when I have a reflection of
Yes.
the things I do today,
Yes.
and I realize she was a silent mentor to me.
Yeah. Someone told us that you can only make sense of life by looking back and connecting the dots. Now, as you're looking back, she's standing out as one of those major catalysts for you to venture into the education sector.
Exactly. Yeah. So when I look back there, and then I always had a dream.
Yeah.
Growing up later, when I was at university, finally doing my education, I'm going to have a school. I'm going to build a school, but I wanted a primary school because that primary school would give me the reflection of the life I had lived as a child.
Yeah.
And but when I got married, my husband wanted to have a school, but as a business enterprise. For me, it was about nurturing. For him, it was about a business enterprise when government started UPE. That's where our journey started. But even then, I was still working. I was still employed formally at the International Committee of the Red Cross.
Yeah.
And after 10 years, when the school started, that is when he said, well, the school has actually grown big, in population and size.
Yeah.
We should come and work together.
Okay.
When I got into school, I wanted to find my feet. And indeed, like you said, when you connect the dots, the things that I do today in school are just a reflection of my experiences as a child.
Okay. At this moment, as we are speaking, what's the name of the school? Where is the location of the school? What is the population of the school? How does the school perform? I know those are many questions, but I know you have them at your fingertips.
The school, my school or the school I went to?
No, your school, the one that you own right now.
Okay. Yeah, my school right now is called St. Mark's College Namagoma.
Yeah.
It is located on Masaka Road, 10 miles from Kampala, shortly after Nabingo, before you get to Nsanji.
Yeah.
It has really grown.
Yeah.
From after we are making 20 years now.
Wow.
And God has been faithful. There is so much that has happened. The population of students has grown. The trust that we've earned from parents.
Yeah.
It is mind-blowing.
Yeah.
That somebody chooses to bring their child because of the trust that they have in you, that eventually their child will turn out to be what they've always desired them to be.
Yeah.
So we celebrate the trust the parents have put in us. We also celebrate all our partners, the teachers, the students, the alumni who come back home proudly to have associated with St. Mark's College Namagoma.
So now, St. Mark's College Namagoma, it has a journey. The journey started, did it start as a primary school? Did it start as a high school? I mean, where did it start? Is it the same location where you are at?
St. Mark's College Namagoma started in 2003 on the 10th of February. That is the day we opened our gate. And Lawrence, I want to tell you, that day we didn't have a gate. We had just 2 poles and heavy logs to indicate that this is a gate.
Yes.
And a live fence around.
Right.
And one of our students, one of the pioneer students was telling us, can you imagine that you gave us instructions without a gate, that anybody who crosses this line will have dismissed themselves. Psychologically, everybody saw it as a gate. That is how far we have come.
Yes.
We had only 2 buildings at that time. And we started in a very, very humble way. All we had is the faith in our pursuit. The belief that we are doing the right thing. And the determination to hang in there. To make a difference in lives of young people. So it started as a high school.
Okay.
Much as I had a dream of a primary school, but it started as a high school, and in the same location where it is. It is still where it is. We bought that land, we started humbly in that place, and it has grown in that space.
Okay. So let me ask you this, Alice. You say that this was your husband's dream as well as yours, even though the dimensions were a bit different. How in the world, how in the world do you get two people who are passionate about the same thing meeting and getting married? Was it scripted? How did that happen?
And I would just, because that is one of the things that is quite amazing.
Yeah.
But it's one thing that even we never discussed about during our courtship.
Yeah.
But I remember when we got married, he said, I'm not going to be employed for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I initially believed in formal employment, somebody being employed, earning a salary, living that simple, moderate, and modest life, having your children, being able to raise them well, pay tuition for them. But I don't even know I had the dream of having a school. But like I said, I had already been impacted.
Yeah.
Now, we are having a discussion. Government starts UPE.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a statistician, an economist.
Yeah.
So he sits down and makes his math because he did development economics on a master's level.
Right.
So he sits down, he does his math, working with the central bank.
Yeah.
And they are meeting with all the World Bank, and they're talking about the population in Uganda, the growth of the population, and the infrastructure that we shall need, and how government cannot measure up to the needs of, a growing population.
Yeah.
So when he does his math, I told him, no, but let's do a primary school, because for me, that is where that's where my desire was. These little children standing at assembly, speaking into their lives, training up a child. That was my desire. And then he said, no, if we are to do a primary school, we shall be competing with government. And we cannot compete with government. Government is a big employer. We can't compete with government.
Yeah.
But we know that there will be an overflow of children leaving primary schools because we have fewer secondary schools. It is easier if we actually invest in a secondary school. It made a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
So I quickly had a mind shift and said, okay, let's go for the secondary school. Now for him, he did his math and he knew without a shadow of a doubt that he's going to make money.
Yeah.
With this kind of business enterprise. And he had a powerful mental picture. He sat down, he did his concepts, he did his proposals, he did so many things in writing. First of all, thinking from his skills as an economist, as a statistician.
Yeah.
I was just tagging along, believing in a dream, because for me, it was passion.
Right.
For him, it was business. But it's something that we never talked about during our courtship. It is because in him, he was so determined not to die as an employee. He wanted to be an employer.
Okay. Alice.
And that is where it all.
Yeah. It leads me to this question. You hear very many people these days having some negative connotations about private schools, like St. Mark's. It's a private school. And they say that those people are just into that for the money. They are not in there to maybe develop the community or impact the lives of young people and so on. They're just in it for the money and so on. What can you say about that kind of vibe that people normally have?
Yeah. People have that kind of mindset, and I would not even in any way be offended by their mental disposition.
Yeah.
But Lawrence, I would want to tell you, there is nothing as powerful, as fulfilling, as touching somebody's life when somebody walks up to you and says, you have made me the person that I am today.
Right.
I sat down when I was at university and I wrote a letter to my head teacher at that time. I was listening into Oprah Winfrey, and Oprah Winfrey said, If somebody touched your life in a special way, please pick that paper and piece of paper and write them a letter just to say thank you. She had retired long ago, but I think when I wrote the letter and I sent it to my primary school, they sent it to Ireland, and she responded. She replied and told me that this is one thing that brings gratification, fulfillment in life. At times you feel you haven't done anything, but when you get something like this, the best gift that you have given me. When my husband walked into education, he was like, I'm going to make money. Today, he is thinking about the lives of children. He keeps saying, all these parents have trusted us with their best, with their loved ones. It is an investment. You cannot just sit back. He will deny himself of anything to give back to these children so that they can become the best versions of themselves. It all starts with the journey. It can start from a different point, but believe me, the power of touching lives, the power of impact, the power of significance will never leave you the same. You cease to look at money and you look at that person whose life changed because of you.
So what you're telling me is that it is true that, well, any business worth doing, you've got to put your heart into it. If you just go for the money, you're going to miss the mark, right?
Exactly.
All right. So exactly. I would guess that this is a purpose venture, so to speak.
Yes, it is a purpose venture.
Right.
Very, very purposeful.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, so the people who would say that, oh, you are in it for the money and all that stuff, there's a way you balance the money and the passion and the purpose. The fact that you're doing something for purpose doesn't mean that you're not entitled to earn a living out of it, right?
Yes.
And then the way you are converting or the way you are impacting generations as we speak, it forces you to approach, quote unquote, the business from a totally different perspective than when you're just in for the money, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
When you are in for the purpose, your thinking, your dreams. I will tell you that when I wake up in the morning to say a prayer, on the forefront, I may even forget my own children, and somebody was challenging me that be careful. You may invest more in everybody else and you forget your children. And this person was related to me and talking about our spiritual leaders. And she said, watch the spiritual leaders, how they easily forget their own family, thinking that it's going to happen automatically. She said, please invest intentionally in your children. As you touch our children's lives, please intentionally invest. And that is what it speaks. That you find yourself that your soul is sold out to everybody else out there. And you have to be very intentional when it comes to your own self. Somebody would call me and tell me, where are you now? Because I live in Kanyanya and I work in Namagoma. That is, 10 miles, more than 10 miles. And somebody said, what are you doing? I said, I'm still at school. And it is 11 p.m. So what are you doing at school? He said, my answer to them is always, there are thousands of destinies here. This is not about children. This is about destiny. This is about what God has placed in my hand. That one day I'll have to give accountability for each and every child.
Wow.
And that's when I love the scripture that says in James that be careful. All you who take on, all you who are going to become teachers, for greater will be your judgment.
Right.
And government says it differently. In different forums, they always say that a nation is because a teacher. The people that we are is what our nation is.
Exactly.
And they always tell us, look around you and see what is happening to our youth today. That is a reflection. Those are your mistakes.
Yeah.
If we had gotten it right as teachers, a nation is because we are. So, to go out, to go back home, we always look back and say, Lord, put a hedge of protection around all those children because I am accountable for each one of them. Now, it's not only about the children, all the people that you employ.
Yeah.
I have 150 employees.
Whoa.
So if 150 employees, those are 150 families.
Yeah.
Inclusive of extended families.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, it needs to be about you.
My goodness. It's life.
I have seen friends who have... It's life. Yeah, so I've seen friends who have given up and they've said, you know what? Let me sell off this school and have my peace. So it is more than money.
Let me ask you this, Alice, because it was in my mind just before you mentioned that statement of friends giving up. Is there a moment in the journey of St. Mark's Namagoma, is there a moment in time that was what you guys consider your lowest moments as you are building the school?
Yes.
Yeah.
One of my lowest, I'll talk about myself, one of my lowest moments is when we had leaders who did not share, who are not purpose-driven like we are, who are more interested in extortion of money, and who had a very bad influence on teachers. So the focus got away from our children, from the students, and they were only focusing on what they want to take out of the institution.
Right.
That was one of my lowest moments. And I'm like, there is nothing as rewarding as doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Because when you get it right, you do it right, and it always be all right.
Right.
But I think the most disheartening thing for me is that their confession of being Christian. And I kept asking myself, what is so Christian about this if you do not care about the soul that God has entrusted to you? So that has been one of my lowest moments.
How did you guys get out of that lowest moment?
Getting out of that lowest moment, I would tell you, I got on my knees.
Yeah.
First of all, it wasn't automatic for me to tell what was going wrong. Everything seemed to be going wrong. And probably everybody could see the red flag, but I could not understand. It required depth of understanding who actually was creating this kind of chaos in the system. And for me, when I realized it was the top leadership, I was very disheartened. You are a Christian, but you are the one messing up the whole thing. So I actually prayed about it. And I got the board. I spoke to the board members because it's not easy to actually release, somebody who is in leadership, and because they also have their influence. As you know, leadership is influence. So if they have influence negatively, it also speaks as such.
Yeah.
So I shared with the board. We talked about it with my husband, but we had to walk a painful journey. Of ensuring that we finally part ways in a way that will not cause commotion in the system.
Right.
Now I'll tell you, those were the longest years of having to wait.
Wow.
When is the right moment?
You're talking about years.
Years of departure.
Whoa. I can imagine that. I mean, I can imagine how frustrating it could be. Someone like me, I am absolutely impatient, sorry to say, when it comes to a place where there is leadership and the leadership is not doing what they're supposed to do. I have been known to be very characteristically impatient with that. I normally say if I am not making things move, I have no business being there. I'd rather just get out of that place. So there's a lesson we learn there, Alice, because building a high school involves you partnering with people, and involves bringing people on board who are, so to speak, men or women of like passions as you. So the question would be, where do you get those people? Are they common? I mean, how do you bring on board people who share the passion, share the purpose, share the vision with you? Is it easy to find such kind of people?
Now, like you said, those years of waiting for the right time taught me lots of things. Before, there would be a need, and we're like, we need to fill up this need, we need to fill up this vacancy immediately. But I also appreciated it's easy to bring somebody on board. It's very difficult to have them out. Very difficult. And it is usually those people who are chaotic, who gain ground in the system, that each time you're thinking of uprooting them, you are creating lots of cracks in the system. I don't know, but that is how evil operates. Like John 5:19 says that the world is covered in wickedness. But because I learned from that it's very difficult to uproot the bad apples,
the tares and the weeds and the plants. You remember the parable of the tares? Yes. I take time to take people on board. You can have all the technical interviews. You may excel in the technical interviews. I always do the behavior interview. Always. And in there, it will test your attitude. It will test your values. And if they don't speak and inform me of what I'm looking for, I will not engage you. It doesn't matter how excellent you are. And progressively, I have managed to bring people on board who speak the language that I speak. Right.
But it has also been years of waiting.
Wow. So the question again is it easy to get such like people?
No, it is not easy. It is not easy. Now, the moment you have somebody with a great attitude,
right,
the moment you have somebody who is willing to learn, they may not be excellent in their technical abilities, but you can train them. You can bring them up to speed. You can bring them up to speed, and they will execute duty to your satisfaction.
I hear you. I've always said that the best employee is not the person that you're going to pick off of the shelf and then you employ them. The best employee is the person that you mold, you pour in your DNA in them, and you grow together. As long as their purpose and yours and passion are kind of maybe connected, that's where you're going to get the best employee. All right. So, Alice, let's talk about earlier on. You mentioned that you, are a teacher of literature, and the thing that you lean on to a lot is skills development, soft skills development, and attitude development of these kids. We know that is not examinable. Actually, one of my podcasts, I've said that one of the biggest reasons as to why we don't teach purpose in school is because it's not examinable and it's not the same. There's no right or wrong answer for it. How do you deploy this? Because we know the school setup. The school setup is mathematics, physics, chemistry, biology, literature, accounting, and so on. But there is the component of soft skills, life skills. How have you deployed it? Is it like in a system? Have you built a system around it? And let's talk about the why. Why are you doing it in the first place?
Why am I doing it in the first place? I'll just make mention. One time I was making a presentation. And I anchored into my experience. As a human resource specialist working at the International Committee of the Red Cross, and I will tell you, when I walked into that space, I've never studied human resource, but one of my employers looked at me, he observed me and realized there's something about me, and he said, no, we shall train you.
Yeah.
We shall trade you. And I spent there 15 years
Wow.
working as a human resource.
Wow.
But I'll tell you, Lawrence, we never, ever terminated anybody's contract because of their qualification.
Wow.
Never. For me, there's one thing that would strike me, because it was predominantly French. But one thing that would always strike me is that would be looking for a doctor or a pharmacist. There was one time where we were looking for an agronomist. We used to get expatriates, and we wanted a Ugandan agronomist. And at that time, they were telling us they are 3 or 4, or they are very difficult to find. Finally, we get somebody after a search of 2 years. And in a space of, I think, 1 year or 9 months later, we terminated their contract. I asked myself, why are we doing this? We've worked so hard to get somebody on board. And my boss told me at that time, you cannot work with such an attitude. And of course, you know, when there are people that you relate with, but you only allow them into your space for professional purposes.
Yeah.
But other than that, you don't allow them into your space.
Yeah.
So, she walks to my one of my bosses, and she's speaking so highly of herself. I deserve more. I deserve better than this. And this gentleman was looking at her and said, but yeah, you probably are highly qualified, but then you don't deserve to work with us if you think you are a lot better than who we are.
Yeah.
And the contract was terminated. Now, one time I was making a presentation, and you know, these quotes that slip off your tongue and give you deep insight. I said, you are hired for your qualifications, but fired for your character.
Whoa.
Now, when we take our children to school, it is a huge investment.
Yeah.
Huge investment.
Yeah.
I mean, you cannot imagine how much parents invest in their children.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, they lose it simply because even them, they don't have an understanding why this child is not employable.
Yeah.
Why they cannot get on board. And it is that conviction that speaks to me that I need to prepare my students not only for employment, but they should be employable.
Yeah.
Somebody should be willing to pick them and say, you come from St. Mark's College Namagoma. I love that product because of their integrity.
Yeah.
I love that product because of diligence. I love that product because of excellency. I love that product because of commitment.
Right.
And they choose to work with you. They choose to nurture you. They choose to train you. They choose to build your capacities, and you excel. And the moment you have those values well found, when you have a deep foundation of great values, the sky is the limit for you.
Wow. So
that openness of mind. So for me, it's very intentional.
Yeah, I can see where you're going with this, because you know as well as I do, of course, working at the HR level, you know one of the biggest nightmares in organizations is getting the right person. As in, very many people have masters. I mean, very many people have degrees, 2 degrees and so on. But you call for an interview. You've gone through this, I'm sure. You call for an interview and the papers are okay. But the moment someone opens their mouth to speak, you just know this one, no. And you go through very many of those. So much so that by the time you find someone who has a semblance of what you're looking for, you really want to get out of your panel interview and just go and hug them. I don't know if you had that kind of experience.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have.
And now that takes you back to the roots. The root is the school, because it is in the school that we are forming these people. You know, the biggest omission we have in developing people is not to give them the subjects, not to give them the academics. The biggest omission is what you're talking about, the character, the life skills. And there is basically, one can say, there's no formal place where it is taught, but you're telling me that you're doing it differently at St. Mark's.
Yes.
So how do you guys deploy it? Yeah, how do you deploy it at St. Mark's?
We do it at different levels.
Yeah.
You know about our inspiration night where you have been a guest before.
Yes.
But that's just a one-off. But it's amazing.
Yeah.
How you share your stories and how they impact the children.
Yeah.
Because it's just your journey, and they're speaking your journey.
Yeah.
But then we also have, we call it the Wednesday Fellowship. Now, Wednesday Fellowship, we bring together all denominations, irrespective, because for us it's fellowship means coming together.
Yeah.
But we use the biblical principles to instill values. So if you want to talk about excellency, and I'll just share, maybe if I want to talk about excellency, and I pick on 2 Peter, chapter 2, verse 9.
Yeah.
Is it first Peter or 2 chapter 2, verse 9? And I'm talking about you're a chosen generation. And you're here to exude the excellencies of God. And we just talk about the word excellency. What does it mean for you? I mean, when you talk about excellence, the world will notice. When you talk about excellency, there is no option to excellency. When you talk about, but what does it mean for you? Starting with where you are. If you're living in the domestic area, are you smart? Are you dressed excellently? When you're walking, does it show somebody whose demeanor is excellent? When you talk and you're speaking to somebody, when you present yourself, just that at the end of the day, when you turn your back, somebody is still, thinking hard about you and the experience they had with you. So we have that forum, and we have it every Wednesday. Then we have, for the leaders, I have what I call the leadership training.
Yeah.
And I use the John Maxwell I Choose program to build the values. So as these leaders interact with their fellow students, they are speaking. We train our class teachers intentionally. Actually, right now I'm thinking of building, of coming up with like a curriculum of life skills and building great character that we can share with the class teachers, that the class teachers can impact their students. So, in a way, it is building a culture of high discipline in all respects of life. If I'm talking about integrity, there is no option to it. I don't speak integrity and then I do something else. Integrity should be a manifestation in everything that I do, in everything that I say. Let the world speak about me in whispers. This is a woman of integrity.
Yeah.
Or this is a woman who, is purposeful when it comes to, or is committed to whatever she does. When Alice says something, she'll commit to it.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
So we are not only talking about the students, but we also want to see our teachers live that life.
Okay.
Because like I said before, the nation is because the teacher is. So it is a very, very intentional, it's very deliberate for us to build that culture.
Right. So the teachers have a buy-in into this, right?
Yeah, they have a buy-in, yes. When you have somebody whose values are right, they're very easy to manage. Right? You have an employee who has a very good attitude. Even when you bring them to table, for an appraisal, and you are raising issues that probably are not so pleasant in the ears, they'll take it in good faith because, they will always know that you have their interests at heart. It will not become offensive and say, no, we are here for improvement, we are here for growth, we are here for capacity building. The great attitude gives them an open mind to receive. So even teachers have a buy-in because they have an understanding. When you have a person with great character, they're easy to deal with.
Yeah. I hear you. I hear you. And I'm really pleased that is happening. Actually, I crave to come back and talk to those guys again, given an opportunity.
Yes, you're going to come back. You're going to first talk to our alumni.
Yeah.
And then you can come back to school and talk to our children.
Right. I really fancy that opportunity. Now, if I was to ask this, what is the current population of the school?
The current population of the school, we are 2,900.
Whoa. This is 2,000.
We've expanded, 2,900.
That is 3,000. My
goodness. Yeah, that is 3,000. I just didn't bring up the additions of 2,953.
Hey. Okay, that's a huge number. How do you manage that?
How we have managed that? First of all, we have ensured that we bring teachers on board who are full time. And full time means 24/7.
Okay.
And having them live around the school, we've built more houses, special houses for our teachers. So at any one time in school, we have like 100 people managing. So we have built capacity, but we have also grown our human resource in all departments, be it security, be it the medical, be it the welfare, be it in the classroom environment, be it in the compound. So to be able to match the number.
The reason as to why I was asking the population, I wanted to find out, because there could be someone who has a dream to have a high school of that nature and so on. The question would be, let's say maybe Lawrence has a dream of building Life Signatures high schools or Life Signatures universities. What in the world does it take to deploy such a structure? And what does it take? Is it, one of those things people normally say, I have 2 billion Uganda shillings, I'm just going to build a school. Is that all there is?
When you're asking that question, immediately the scripture fell in my spirit that can anybody put up a castle without counting the cost?
Yeah.
If you have a dream, all of us have dreams, but always count the cost. It is pricey to come up with such a school. And as we lift such big projects from the ground, there's a lot of sacrifice. In so many respects. If I tell you my journey for the 10 years, when we are trying to go to school up to the 10th year, I will tell some people that we had one car, and I remember, I think, one time we were taking our children to school. It was such an old car that the door opened when we got into the pothole. The driver's side, my husband was driving, and the door opened, and we are like these village cars where somebody is using their hand, driving with one hand and the other hand holding the door, because we couldn't afford another car.
Whoa.
There is a moment where I had to walk because I needed to manage my finances and I would use it like I'm doing my exercises. I walk back home, but in a way I was also trying to manage my finances. But for me, that is nothing. Even when you can afford, and you can afford the biggest car, you can afford all that you need. Also, that is nothing. The price that you should pay is that price of significance, pouring out your heart into the lives of other people, dying to self and giving to bless others. That when you look at these students and you want to give them a good diet, you want to give them a good place to live, and you're like, they're from home, but let's decongest them and give them a lot of space. So they can manage a good environment with their domestic welfare. Or when they go to the dining, they should have excellent meals. So if we're talking about an establishment, if you look at the cost, it's quite pricey. Everybody looks at just maybe the infrastructure. You can put up very good infrastructure, but what happens behind the closed doors? That beautiful infrastructure. It should be a great experience. And it is that experience that you actually pay more for than even the infrastructure.
Wow. So it's basically, and, you've got to it goes back to the calling thing you're talking about.
Yeah. It is life signature.
Yeah.
The life signature thing.
Yeah. It's not something you're going to graduate from and you say, I'm going to do other things. This is it for you, right?
No.
Okay. Are you thinking of a university?
Not yet. But like I said, you have to count the cost. Until now, I get cold feet. When it comes to saying, okay, I think it should be bigger than this, I said, no. Actually, yesterday, people were challenging us, no, given what we have, the numbers, the trust from the parents, the performance, it will go to 3,500. My husband was saying, no, I'm not taking more than 3,000. No way.
Yeah.
I know what it means. I know the price I'm supposed to pay. No,
Yeah.
we'll put to a limit.
Yeah.
We shall just use our excellency, but not just about numbers. Just use the excellency. Yes.
I hear you. So speaking of which, how has been the performance of these kids nationally?
The performance has been great. Primarily, we used to do very well at A level, especially in the sciences. But now, even O level, we are performing very, very well. When you are starting a school, you not get the cream de la cream. You get students, who can associate with you, who are willing to work with you. And many of them, they are not really the ideal children, but that is not important. What is important is to make the best out of each child who has been placed in your hands. And we celebrate the growth of excellence because like last year, we performed so well at our ordinary level. We got 144 first grade.
Wow.
So that is what celebrating. And like we always say, that the children that you receive are the children that God has accorded to you. And it is incumbent on you to make the best out of them. And I was just sharing with one of my teachers and telling them that when we talk about intellect and learning ability, there is a huge difference. We all learn differently, and our intellect is sharpened differently. So if we learn the learning, I always say that intellect can be acquired if people can discover your learning ability. That is why you find the autistic child excelling. With autism, they are excelling, or somebody is bipolar and they're excelling. But probably in the spaces where they were, somebody was able to discover their learning ability and they deployed it and this child excelled. So, irrespective of the children who walk up to school, we as teachers, we are supposed to make the best out of them. So they can excel. So, right now, I can say the performance, we are on the upward trend, and we thank God for that.
Thank you. So let me ask you, even as we have started winding up this, let me ask you this. When you look at society today, it is not the same as it was when you were starting St. Mark's. Are there things that need to be done differently, especially in the education sector? And I'm not just talking about St. Mark's here. I'm talking about all of us in society at large. Have you identified as an educator? Of course, you've said. By the way, Alice, did you know that the oldest profession? People normally say that prostitution is the oldest profession, but it's not. The oldest profession is teaching. Did you know that? It is teaching. So when you look at the whole society at large, what does it take? What do we need to do? The same way my parents were educated cannot be the same way my kids are going to be educated. The same approach you used in 20 years ago when you are building St. Mark's cannot be the same. When you're looking at these changes that are happening in society today, and you're looking at some of the challenges we are facing at the job market and just basically as a nation, where do you place education, and what do you think education can do to innovate or to change or to approach some of these problems and solve them?
There is a book that was written by a gentleman. He's called Thomas R. I think Radmith. He's a Canadian. Becoming Imaginal. And he's seeing and how we can create the future for education. And many people would say that probably the education system now is obsolete, it needs to change, and so on. But we cannot discard it completely. There are still a few things that we need. We need the experiences of what is happening now, what has been happening. But we need to look ahead so that you can be able to be competitive at a global stage. So this will require a lot of innovation. There is, explosion of information, technology. We have to adapt to technology. Because this is when we started 10 years ago. I mean, having a computer lab was more or less like, the stylish thing to do. We didn't tell people, we have a computer lab. And what is the essence of having a computer lab, right? But now these are things that we have to be very intentional about. Teaching actually in the lower curriculum, they are giving the children the ability to think critically rather than the curriculum we had years back. So progressively, we are moving into that era whereby there is a change, and maybe the change may be gradual and slow because of the funding or the capacities of people. But change will take place anyway. Like they always say, if you don't change, you always change you. So the aspect of innovation, the aspect of invention, it's here with us. It's here to stay. So when it comes to technology, this is one of the things that we should actually embrace and see how best it can be integrated into the system. The aspect of doing research, the aspect of being visionary, looking ahead into the future and see how best we can utilize what we have and also be able to meet the challenges. When you get me the challenge of reading about artificial intelligence or the
ChatGPT,
ChatGPT, and I was like, okay, you ask questions and you get response. And I was listening to an audio whereby it was a YouTube channel, and this gentleman was asked the chat GPT-4 to write a poem about tigers falling in love in the jungle. And then we had a poem, and it ended, and I was like, wow, what is this? So, is this competing with human abilities? Is it that at the end of the day, everybody who will be educated will be engaged meaningfully and relevantly in a way? So these are things that we need to look at critically in the education space. And I'll tell you that with the information explosion, even if on a bigger scale, government is not giving us a leverage, maybe because people respect education in the government space if it is examinable. It should be imperative it should be incumbent on us, and it's imperative that in the education space we expose our students to what they are bound to meet in the future. So we should do a little more when it comes to preparing our students for the future with the technology that we have to do.
Wow.
So
Awesome.
we don't have to wait for the ministry or whatever, but it's us. As we do research, we should expose them to this.
So finally, Alice, the place of parents and parenting in education, what do you have to say about that?
For the space of parents and parenting, I would want to say, let parents partner with school. To begin with, as a parent, as you're making the choice of a school, take children to a school where you trust those that are in that school. And I'll tell you, like, the saying goes that people buy people are not products. There is a reason why you would want to associate with that school. But because your children are in the hands of that school for a longer period than you are, you should be intentional in partnering with the school authorities and the teachers to bring the best out of your child. It's like when we're in a home environment where they tell mommy and daddy should speak the same language when it comes to discipline. Mommy and daddy should speak the same language when we're making decisions. Mommy and daddy, Now, you should speak the same language. Have enough trust in the reports that are given to your children. I will tell you, Lawrence, out of experience, a child who is at home is different from a child who is at school. Totally different. If a teacher may tell may say something about your son, and it will shock you. And they're like, "Oh, this is not the child I know." At home, they behave like they're babies. At school, they're adults. They're actually leaders in class.
Yeah.
And you have no idea. But at home, he's always crying. He always wants to be somebody to babysit him.
Yeah.
But at school, he's the one managing his fellow toddlers. And you're like, really? He's a powerful leader. When you are there, he goes and presents a poem, and you're in total shock. How is this happening? So, parents, as we parent actively, let's actively engage with teachers, and let's all speak the same language. There is no point why a parent should think that a teacher is after their children. I mean, in a population of 2,900 students, why would it be my own child that a teacher has spotted? There must be a reason.
Right.
So, and because when you look at 6 years, like I'm talking about us now in high school, it's 6 years, look at the months that you are with this child. You can even break it down for yourself hours. Probably during the holiday, you even spend a week in terms of hours. But you forget that this teacher spent 91 days, 24 hours with this child.
Wow.
So they know them better than you do.
Yeah. Wow.
So parenting, let's be very, very active, but let's be very intentional. And let there also be a consistency of purpose.
Yeah.
How do I want my child to turn out at the end of the day? All these are partners in raising. Like, you know, I said that a child is not raised. A child is raised by a village. Allow the school to be a village. So that your child can be raised well. A cook can be able to impact the child. The metro will impact the child. The compound will impact the child. I can just maybe conclude that point with a small experience.
Yeah.
There was this gentleman, he's now a surgeon.
Right.
He was in King's College Studio. So he was coming from a rural area.
Yeah.
And in the rural area, coming from a less privileged family, when he came to King's College Studio, very few people respected him as a person. So he found a group of boys, and I'll tell you that many times it is the bad boys who make friends with the bad girls.
Yeah.
So he comes into the space of these boys, and they're smoking, they're drinking, and, you know, coming from a humble background, he felt like, no, I cannot engage in this.
Yeah.
But for a villager, if you want to match up to us, from the bourgeoisie class, you have to drink, you have to smoke.
Yeah.
So fast forward, he starts drinking, he starts smoking. Now one time they were standing at the assembly, and he had the urge to smoke. So he goes to the toilet and takes a cigarette. Now the cleaner in the toilet smells the scent of smoke of the cigarette. And he goes and pushes in the door, and lo and behold, he's standing there smoking. And he tells him, I'm going to take you to the head teacher. Now you can imagine he was even on scholarship at that time.
Wow.
And he knew that his father would just get out the panga and, cut him into pieces. So he knelt down there in the toilet, in the bathroom, and begged that compound man, please don't. Then this man told him, I will not if you promise me that you will never smoke again for the rest of your life. And he told him, I will not. He said, from that day, his life totally changed. A few days later, his friends were caught smoking, and they were all dismissed.
Wow.
So I asked him, how have they ended up? He said, they have not mounted much, but I'll forever be grateful
for that
compound man who caught me in the bathroom, and I made a pledge. I made a promise I'll never smoke again. He changed my life. I wouldn't be the surgeon that I am today now.
Wow.
So in a school environment, I'm telling you, his mother and his father, even if you told them your son smokes, they would deny it vehemently. That is our son, that can't happen. That's a lie. But he did the truth. But he changed. And for me, that spoke to me that everybody in a school has a role to play in nurturing the child.
Exactly. And that's why you have a buy-in of nearly everyone that is serving in that particular school. And that's why it's critical. Alice, it's been very good talking to you. I know there are very many other subjects that we can go into and we can talk about that, but I really do appreciate you taking some time to talk to us about school, about education, your passion for it, about St. Mark's, and the things that you're doing to help this country to be a better place for our children. I don't know how people normally get in touch with you if they want their kids to get enrolled into St. Mark's. Do you have a procedure to follow and so on?
Yeah, they can come directly to school. They can check out our website. www.stmarks.sc.ug. They can check out our website. They can call the school directly. And it will be a pleasure. And Lawrence, I would want to tell you one other thing.
Yeah.
You may not be a parent who wants to bring your child to St. Mark's, but probably you're a parent who wants to have a conversation with me. For that, you are most welcome.
Right.
I will talk to any parent. I'll help out any parent. I'll counsel any child. As long as we can impact these children for the better.
Right.
If we don't do it right, we shall not get it right, and it will never be all right with our nation.
Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the close of today's episode. We've been talking to Director Alice Ddamulira of St. Mark's College Namagoma on Massacre Road. It's been an interesting discussion. Alice, we are really grateful for this, and God bless you and bless the work of your hands for the things that you're doing for this country. And in case the university call comes up, be ready.
Amen. Well, indeed, when it comes up, when the call comes up, yes, we'll be ready for it. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you so much, Lawrence, for putting on us to share, to have a conversation on education.
Yeah.
I'm really honored. Thank you so much, and God bless you.
God bless you, and bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Life Signatures Radio. If you enjoyed today's show, subscribe to Life Signatures Radio on iTunes, Stitcher, or visit our website at lifesignatures.libsyn.com. Life Signatures Radio, fresh, clean, and inspiring.